This is an interview where we're calling people to reflect on how their work is fitting into the gospel narrative of creation, fall, redemption, renewal, and new creation. And so today we have Joshua, who has volunteered to be interviewed. Wonderful. Thanks, Joshua, for agreeing to do this this morning. To begin with, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
I'm a credit analyst who helps rate banks. Basically, we affix a rating to the bank to when it wants to issue debt in the market. And this rating basically helps the market know that bank A is relatively safer to other companies out there. Yeah, that's a short summary of what I usually do.
Thanks, Joshua. For those of us who understand finance, this is pretty clear, but I know this can sound a little challenging for those of us who are not all that familiar with finance, but it's an interesting job profile. How does your work in credit rating connect with God's original plan for humanity, God's original plan for work? How do you see that connection? Are you able to see a connection at all?
This question was tough for me. I actually left this question till the very end. And I was there for the last Sunday service, so you helped me connect it with what we spoke about there, which is God initiating this concept of work, and about how we see God in our colleagues, Christian or non-Christian, doesn't matter. We still see God in them because of Him being our creator. So I struggle to find an accurate answer to this question. And I sort of feel that my reflection on the other questions answers this. But if I were to sum it up, it would be that I don't know that my exact work in credit rating could connect very well with God's creation plan for humanity, but it's more that I just be present and show up and engage with the people around me wherever God's placing me in the different stages of my life. So I would say that my day-to-day work wouldn't matter, but just that the environment I'm in, I don't reject that environment and always focus on something else. I just be present in that moment.
Thank you, Joshua. I think as we were discussing, these interviews are not designed to get the perfect answer or the perfect solution. These are very reflective questions, and it's a journey, and we're all in different parts of the journey. There's some parts of my work that I'm able to connect. There are some parts of my work that I'm not able to connect. But the goal of the question is to make us just consider that framework where our work was instituted by God. So thanks, Joshua, for being honest and being reflective in trying to answer that question. Great. The next question I have for you is, how is your work making you aware of your own brokenness and the brokenness of the world around you?
This one will I need to set a little context for this answer, so just bear with me if it's a little long. So when I first got selected, a lot of my friends at college turned it down because of how low the salary was. But I had majored in finance and I didn't opt for any dual specialization that the college was providing. So I wanted a proper finance company. And during the interview and the way things fell into place after the interview and the processes after the interview made me realize that God was leading me towards this company. So I ended up accepting the offer thinking that I had made my peace with the low salary part of it. But during my first year in Mumbai, I found myself being a little bitter towards God about the money issues. And over the past 3 years, this low salary issue would be echoed even by colleagues. Like there were these couple of friends who we'd always sit around having a coffee, like during our 4 o'clock break or in the evenings. And they too would tell the same things about how the salary was tough. The work is nice. We all enjoyed our work, but the salary was much lower than what other companies were giving. And it was at that point I began to question myself, asking if I really believed that running to another company would, with higher pay, would bring me that sort of actual happiness that I was searching for. And it also led me to think that if I was focusing so much on these day-to-day worries, and one verse that I really like is Matthew 6:25, which talks about not focusing on your everyday, because there's God's in control, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, so, but God's in control. And I was just thinking about how I'd be an example to my colleagues, telling them that faith in Jesus is better than wherever else they were putting their faith right now. But I myself was failing miserably at not focusing on my worries and trusting Jesus. But I think that's still a struggle for me, not succumbing to that fear and worry, because I find that I'm wired that way. But I guess I'm still working on it.
Thanks, Joshua. I think you just described the real Christian life for most of us. This is what life Monday to Saturday really looks like. There are these challenges and there are these issues that we're really anxious about. And finding Jesus, clinging to him through those brokenness, through those sins, that's what the real Christian life is all about. So thanks again for being so honest in your answer. Now, even as you, struggle with your own brokenness, even as you see the brokenness of the world outside, God's still at work in you as he is in every one of us. And so can you share a small example or any example of how the gospel is helping you become a better worker despite these very real challenges?
I, I guess I can be a little short-tempered sometimes. It depends on who you ask. Thankfully, my mom is not on this call. But I think as we explored through gospel-centered community and gospel-centered life, I began to understand these two verses in particular, the one about for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and the other one that says, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And the simple answer, I think, for me is, I believe I'm being taught to look through the lens of compassion and understanding more and more, like just showing more empathy when I'm at my workplace and anywhere else, and to not pass judgment on someone because they sin differently from me. I tend to, I think, rank order sin sometimes. So I'm just learning to work on that area of my life right now.
Thanks, Joshua. Even as you're kind of dealing with all of this, how are you able to love and serve others in and through your work? How is your work enabling you to serve others?
I told you about the salary part in the previous question. So basically, I used to think if I had this salary and they were allowing me to work from Chennai, I'd be very happy and I wouldn't be complaining as much. But these last 10 months of work from home have taught me that this is not what I want. I kind of hate being at home for this long. I need to be in that corporate environment amongst colleagues, and because that serves as a distraction instead of working continuously. I just started this week this book by Mike Murdoch called The Leadership Secrets of Jesus. And in one of those points, he talks about how Jesus, in his ministry, didn't stay aloof. He didn't always move to the outskirts of the city and try to be alone. He was there amongst the people, healing them, preaching to them. And Mike Murdoch talks about how we should also embody this characteristic of Jesus. And reading it, it struck me because that's very difficult for me. I tend to be introverted, so setting out with to look and be there amongst people and talk to them was something I'm not too fond of. But I think that's one thing God is teaching me about how I need to serve. That I can't think of isolation. I have to be there in that environment and sort of try and be an example there.
Thanks, Joshua. The last question I have for you is, how as you reflect on this, how do you think your work here and now connects to the longing for the perfect world that Christ will bring when he comes back again.
I'm not sure what the specifics of eternity would look like in my mind. I can't like pinpoint anything, but I feel like we might not even need finance, at least not the way I know it or we know it now. So I don't think I can answer this question with the specifics of my day-to-day work. But I feel that God brought me to this city, to this job, and however permanent or temporary that is, while I'm here, I guess I need to make sure that others are coming towards Jesus, and as they see his example through me, they should want to draw near to him and not be, and they shouldn't be put off by me that they then also get put off with Jesus because they think this is what it means to be a Christian. And I keep thinking about that verse we read recently in CBR, which says, we need to be good stewards of what we are entrusted with here on earth, and with the little we are entrusted here on earth, and that would help us receive greater responsibility in the world to come. So I think this verse talks about riches in particular, but if we can extrapolate to add time into that, it depends on how we use our time in the office, even apart from the routine tasks we perform there.
Thanks, Joshua. Thank you. Thank you for just being so honest. And I do need to say that I think in the way Joshua kind of answered those questions, in a way, he kind of showcased what every one of us in New City should be like. We're definitely not people who've got it all figured out, especially when it comes to living out our faith out there in the world. We are not people who've got it all figured out, but we are people who are committed to making that journey. And even though when we don't see everything, even when we don't understand, we know that in Christ and his plan of redemption, he will help us learn and grow and become all that he's called us to be. So thanks, Joshua, for participating in this interview. Great. Thank you.